Or is it something that, hey, we've got this side of the business is on full autopilot, we want to add this on? Um, the DBA being owned by the LLC.
It's time for bookkeeping, beer, and BS. Austin Douglas, my man, did the itch. I'm looking to add white collar tree and shrub work, in parentheses, fertilization, insect control, deer control. I believe those services coincide with what we do. However, would it be wiser to make a different brand for that? And when Ditch the Itch is at the property, we refer our other company, or do we just make a new DBA for the company? I lean towards less companies are better, and I'm biased because I have 5 of them, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. The only reason I would start separate companies, like actual separate LLCs, would be if it's in a different location and I need to be able to like cleanly sell it separate from this one over here, or if I want to bring on a business partner. If you're going to bring on a business partner in one and not the other, then they need to be separate companies. And I usually do that by location, not by service type. You could always carve it out. It's harder to create a separate company and then like smash them together later. That's a pain in the butt. Easier to start them as separate divisions with a DBA. And then if you need to carve one out to sell a portion of it, you can always do that. And we've done that before too. The barriers, or the distinctions, not the barriers, but the distinctions that I look for, Austin, are if it's in like a different location, then I'd consider starting a separate company. Or if like all of the infrastructure is isolated and different, like they're different locations, right? They don't even share the same office. The admin team is different. The marketing is different. All the infrastructure is different. If all the resources behind the scenes, not necessarily the labor, but just the behind the scenes resources to run that specific business are different, then I think separate LLCs. But if the same person can answer the phone, if you can work it out of the same location, all of those types of administrative things behind the scenes, then it's all one business with just multiple divisions. And if you do find, we actually had this for a while, and this is the beginnings of Blue Sky Services. If you do find like the infrastructure is split, but the same people can answer the phone, you might have a third business on your hands, which is an administrative like shell company. And that's what Blue Sky Services was. It was the business that answered the phone and did all the bookkeeping and the recruiting for all of our operating companies. And then by accident, we started doing it for a whole bunch of other people. If it's all in the same location, it's just different services. Even if you're running separate crews for it, I still think it's just different divisions of the same business is an easier way to run that. What do you think, Rob?
It comes down to what's your current branding. And like Dan said, what's your long-term plan? It's very easy to add on a DBA. You know, are you just dipping your toes into the water? Are you wondering if this white collar tree and shrub work is going to work out for you? Is it something you're unsure about? You may shift the whole company. Or is it something that, hey, we've got this side of the business is on full autopilot, we want to add this on? The DBA being owned by the LLC is the quick way. I mean, basically from client standpoint, marketing wise, it's, you know, we have Delmarva Christmas lights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So clean power wash Christmas lights did not make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
You're right.
Blue Skies Christmas lights. I don't know what Blue Skies is, but okay, they do Christmas lights. Blue Skies bookkeeping. It worked with that. So that's
it's generic enough.
Yeah. Is your overall thing, is it generic enough that you can just add XYZ services to it, and it makes sense? Do you plan on hopefully selling it, or are you planning on, and really once it becomes enough that, I'm going to speak for Brett and Ryan on this, but I'm pretty sure that they now have separate LLCs for the lights all year, the gutter cleaning and the power washing, and for the landscape lighting and all that stuff, because at this point, you don't want something that gets screwed up over here with Christmas lights to then go after everything.
Yep.
And that's, if you're doing $1 million and in any of these divisions, it should be its own separate thing. From Dan's bookkeeping side, it may get a little bit more confusing, or he just may charge you, triple and quadruple.
It just runs like multiple businesses from like a bookkeeping standpoint. It's actually more complicated bookkeeping wise to keep them together. Like, because then you have to make allocation decisions sometimes, but we do that for a whole bunch of clients that run multiple services. I'm sitting here. Oh, go ahead.
And you get to that point too. Like, I mean, when you guys first start your power washing business, you're going to be a DBA. And then you're going to get to the point where the CPA and the accountant say, you know what, you got enough assets. This is legit enough. Tax-wise, you need to become an LLC. And then eventually they're going to look at it and they're going to tell you need to be an S Corp. Probably not going to get to a C Corp, but that's where looking at assets, the revenue of the business, does it make sense? Taxes, all those things come into play. Insurance, how do you want to get all those things protected? So,
yep. I'm sitting here looking at, so right now Austin does like poison ivy removal and stuff like that. Hence the name Ditch the Itch. So I'm like looking at, okay, fertilization, insect control, deer control. Do you play off of the ditch the name, like ditch the pest, ditch the weeds? Is there a ditch the scheme going on, or is it a rhyming scheme? And so then you've got something about pest control and something about fertilization. You got to have a rhyme in there. I couldn't come up with a rhyme. But that's what I'm curious. I'm curious about that, Austin. I'm curious how you would go
with his situation. That, to me, it sounds like if you want to grow this white collar tree and shrub work, that actually ends up becoming the new parent company, and Ditch the Itch becomes a sub of that. I mean, that to me, I feel like Ditch the Itch, especially if you're just doing poison ivy removal, that seems way more niche than probably anything else that you're going to do in the future. So. And that's where, guys, take a moment, check, are these other websites available? Are these other ideas available? If you've got a group of people that you're talking to on a regular basis, other business people, throw these ideas out. That's kind of where you want to test that water and see, does this make sense?